Welcome to the Horse Speak Book Club. I'm Laura Wilsey, and we are embarking through the Horse Speak Trilogy. We provide here with Horse Speak, and we're dedicated, I'm messing up my intro, we're dedicated to giving horses a voice and being their well-deserved advocates. We provide evidence-based knowledge that is repeatable, intrinsic, and observable of equine body language that we can emulate as being humans. We offer online learning, weekly clubs where we do analyze our members' videos, which we're not having club today, video club. Sharon needs to take a nap. From herd dynamics to riding, and we do in-person clinics. If you would like to learn more information, visit our website at horsespeakacademy.com. This is a judgment-free zone, and we would just love to keep everyone safe as everyone has a varied horsemanship background. And we are well on our way to having a great day. So, Danuta, start us off, please.
Step 7. The 5 levels of intensity. As we discussed in brief in Chapter 1, when I introduced managing volume, I have assigned numbers to represent the levels of intensity of physical movement or volume you might use in a conversation with a horse. To recap, the 5 numbers are 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. As the numbers increase, so does the size or emphasis of your movements. Learning the levels. Now that you have some experience with some of the horse speak basics, you can learn to adjust your language intensity to correspond with your situation. You have learned the alphabet and your first sentences. Now you can learn to speak and read with inflection and fluency. Outer zero and O posture. It all begins with complete calm in mind and body. 0. We explored inner and outer zero in detail on page 7. Here we will simply revisit it, so we have a place on the intensity spectrum from which to begin. As you know, the O posture is beckoning, and the inward curve of your body welcomes the horse to approach while in a state of inner zero. Level 1. The more common usage of the word intention doesn't seem to mesh with physical gesture, as it assumes a mental state rather than a physical one. They are not mutually exclusive, however. When you hold an intention in your mind, a determination to act in a certain way or do a certain thing, your body shifts ever so subtly. And guess what? Your horse can read any microscopic shift in your posture. The tilt of your chin, the angle of your shoulders, the bend of your knees. Therefore, the way to express level 1 intensity is through your posture. With intention, you stand straighter than you do when you are at inner and outer zero. Your head is higher and your shoulders are back rather than curved as in with the O posture. Sensitive horses respond to level 1 intention all the time, and you just don't notice it as they shift their bodies and yield their space to you when you turn to face them. Stoic horses, on the other hand, may not respond much to your upright posture, energy. It can take a while for them to understand what you're doing. These are often horses that have shut down in order to cope with inconsistent communication from people. Lesson horses are usually pretty stoic from years of dealing with unbalanced riders and mixed messages. At first, you may need to use a higher level of intensity with stoic horses. But Sharon has found they can be just as sensitive as any other horse once they feel they can open up to people in conversation. Practicing posture. Explore your posture at random times with your horse. Say you are walking toward the paddock and your horse is watching you come towards him. With your emotions at 0, square your shoulders to your horse. Then focus on the side of his neck and visualizing him turning away. See what his reaction is. Return to your body, to outer 0, or turn completely away from him. Engaging her core with slightly bent knees and at the same time bring her imagination. Sorry, I'm going to read that normally. Engaging my core with slightly bent knees and at the same time imagining my breath so it seeps into the ground has a number of times stopped a horse running straight at me. You'll have to be willing to play a bit with this as you learn. Level 1 intensity can be dramatically quite effective, even though you do not move your arms and legs in order to convey a message. You simply form an intention in your mind, look toward a button on a horse, and straighten your posture so it begins to resemble the X you learned on page 68. And we'll go into more depth when it comes to this subject, beginning on page 107. The important thing is you return to the relaxed posture of 0 as soon as you can.
Thank you. Sherry?
I'm here. I was diligently looking at all of the photos that Sharon had on the previous page. Level 2. Motion is now added in order to convey a message. Level 2 is asking politely, combining level 1 intensity and simply adding movement. Progression to level 2 looks like this. Your mind is relaxed to 0, then holds a clear intention of what you are asking the horse to do. You stand in a more upright posture and focus on the buttons appropriate to your request. If your horse does not yield or respond, add to your intention by pointing to the buttons with your fingers or waving your hand for direct motion. You may also extend the reach of this indirect pressure by waving or shaking a piece of baling twine or handkerchief towards the button, or a plastic bag tied to the end of a crop or stick. You can move a horse out of your space by gently flapping your hands in the air. I like to start with a tickle motion with my fingers towards buttons. Not only does it keep me less serious, the horses also seem to appreciate this style of gesture. Level 2 can be a pivot point where you'll begin to know whether you need to turn up your volume or perhaps tone it down. It's not uncommon, for example, for a horse to suddenly become non-compliant. This is because two horses will eventually explore all the levels of intensity with each other to see which horse's levels look alike. If one horse flies up the spectrum, resorting to force easily, then the other horse knows he should avoid making waves. Horses want to know what your intensity levels look like for this same reason. Level 3. When you turn up the intensity another notch, it is more active and motion of the hands is joined by a step toward the horse. It is the equivalent of using a louder physical voice, closer to telling in human inflection than asking. Keeping the calm of inner 0 emotionally, set your intention with your body's posture, but this time step toward the horse and motion to a button. Move into his bubble of personal space. Often the horse feels your bubble, reach his, and reads your intent to touch him before you actually get close enough to do so. When your horse does not hear or read your intention and does not listen to motion, you can now thoughtfully add touch to the message. Incorporate just enough pressure to express your message, then stop and return to 0. If you stay thoughtful, so will your horse. Horses avoid actually biting and kicking the majority of the time, the equivalent of a very loud touch or tell. With level 3 intensity, you risk creating resistance with such an expression. When horses create resistance in each other all the time, there isn't peace in the herd, which we already know they crave. So it is important for you to use just enough intensity to communicate your message. On the other hand, you have to hold your intensity level until the horse at least flinches an acknowledgement of you. The more tuned in you get to the language, the more subtle all of your interactions become with your horse. Level 4. Now is the time to demand, but you are still not screaming because no matter what your physical gesture is, now an obvious X, spreading your legs apart and lifting your arms, you want to stay 0 inside. Level 4 can include all the previous level characteristics: clear intention, focus, movement, and touch. Think of level 4 as doing jumping jacks to make your point. Use grand and forceful gestures, and as mentioned, you may or may not include touch. When Sharon uses the words grand and forceful, she doesn't mean you should strike a horse. Most often, the message should be conveyed without touch. By following the previous steps in this book, you've already gained the trust and respect of your horse that make this kind of communication an extreme rather than a norm. Level 4 is exaggerated movement. You use big movements the same way a horse does to show the highest level of intensity when another is not responding to him at all. At times, you could find yourself in a dangerous place with a horse, and in these rare instances, level 4 intensity may be required to get a horse's attention in order to be safe. Conversations you've learned to this point are not meant to address extreme situations with panicked or angry horses. The conversations you have should allow you to increase your level of intensity gradually until you get a response. When a human raises her intensity all the way up to 4, let's say striking the ground hard with the tail of a whip, making a cracking sound, you often cannot return to total calm, inner and outer zero, in a matter of moments, as is our goal, and this causes stress to the horse. The pressure from your body stays in the on position, and he can feel it.
Thank you. Alexis? Oops.
All right. Thank you. The difference between assertive and aggressive. Humans are guilty of thinking about moments they aren't enjoying with their horses. Thoughts like, oh my gosh, this horse is never going to change. I can't believe it. I feel betrayed. Why am I paying for this? He never understands me. These stories that you tell and retell yourself keep spinning the events round and round your head until you are no longer in the moment with the horse. This is an internal pressure that you experience, which horses are sensitive to. Another form of pressure that you exude is when you think you are in a contest of wills and you must always win. On the contrary, I believe we must strive to never fight for the horse. Our predator instincts could unexpectedly trigger inappropriate action. That is, we might do the wrong thing and it might harm our future abilities to be with or work with a particular horse. We also don't want to play the role of predator with a horse because he has great strength and accuracy of his own instinctual defense, kicking and biting. In a conversation, you do not want either your horse or yourself under the influence of adrenaline, one of the major stress hormones. Neither one of you will be thinking, but instead simply reacting. Mother Nature will take over. When a human or horse has a surge of adrenaline, it takes at least 20 minutes for that hormone to completely leave the body, unless he, quote, runs it off. Exercise, assertive practice. To end the confusion between assertive and aggressive, try this exercise where you practice level 4 intensity on the outside while maintaining 0 on the inside. Step 1. In an open space without horses nearby, hit a fitness ball with a whip using all the strength you can muster. Step 2. Then go right back to outer 0. Step 3. Observe your emotions as you do this. As you go from 0 up to level 1, forming intent, to level 2, asking politely, to level 3, telling, perhaps with touch, to level 4, exaggerated movement, your emotional state should not change. But when hitting the ball in this exercise, many find it hard to perform the action and return immediately to inner and outer 0. The trick is to allow your body the movement, but keep your inner self quiet, like a samurai. Emotional stability. To express large movements without emotion takes practice, but it is vital to be able to use large movements in conversations, if needed, with emotional stability. Emotional stability is being able to identify and manage your emotions all of the time you are with your horse. It's not when you are waving sticks or flags, touching or making large movements that progress happens with your horse. It's when the pressure stops. Keeping pressure on a horse is the fastest way to turn a sensitive conversation into a desensitizing one. One horse would not grab onto another horse and simply hold on. To be the most effective, you need to be like a horse. Work up the levels of intensity until you are heard, then immediately drop back to 0.
Thank you. Violet?
If you observe any 2 or more horses turned out together, you will rarely see them use more than level 2 to communicate with each other. You will also see how they move from 0 to 2 and then back to 1 or 0 almost immediately. Their goal is to spend life at 0. Horses only rarely use level 3 or 4 intensity with each other. By comparison, we may groom a horse at a 1 or 2, and when doing groundwork with a horse, we may be at 3 or 4 intensity, which is telling and demanding. Fine-tuning your X and O postures. Let's think about some of the horse speak you've learned so far. Human-to-human body language is not all that different. When a stranger stares directly at you, a sending message, you may be uncomfortable. When a lover gazes into your eyes, beckoning message, you melt. When someone stands too close or directly in front of you, it feels different than when that person faces you slightly to one side. If someone poked your shoulder for no reason, you'd be confused or get angry. If a dance partner twirled you with a gentle hand on your arm, you'd turn back willingly into your partner's arms. As we've discussed, the position of your torso, as well as how you hold or move your arms, legs, and head, have great meaning to the horse. You give a powerful sending message to a horse by forming degrees of X with your body. There are many variations of the X posture. A slight lifting of your chest is an X, as is holding your head high. Any stance that exposes your torso is an X. Lifting one arm to put pressure on a button on your horse is a sending message and a form of X. An extreme X is standing with your legs apart and arms held up and apart over your head as if you were doing jumping jacks. We all do some version of X instinctively with our horses. It is less instinctive to draw a horse to you with the O posture. To remind you, in an O posture, your arms form a circle low in front of your torso. You are naturally slightly bent over with unlocked knees, and your head is lowered. The O posture is as irresistible to a horse as someone holding his arms out to you while offering a huge smile. Some people tend to allow horses too in their bubbles of personal space. Their body language is naturally O-like, shoulders rounded, chest held in, knees soft, neck slightly bent. Other people can't catch horses because their baseline posture is too X. Their chest is always out, shoulders always back. With both these types of people, even though they aren't doing an X or O with their arms or doing it with conscious intention, horses are still sensitive to the corresponding beckoning and sending messages and will respond. Now that we're playing with the volume of our intensity, it makes sense to use the intensity levels to fine-tune our X and O postures. Fine-tuning core energy. Your posture influences how the center of your torso appears to the horse. In the X posture, you stand up straight with a completely exposed belly button. In the O posture, your belly button is drawn in and somewhat behind your lower arms. Remember that your belly button is a powerful communicator to a horse because behind it lies your core energy. This may be why the X and O postures communicate so well. You now have the tools to explore how sensitive your horse is to your core energy. Should I read the box there on the left? Moving from X to O and back again in practice. One of my students has an opinionated mare that one winter day got out of the pasture and was running around quite animated and excited. In order to move the mare away from the barn where there was a danger of her being injured and to safely contain her in a paddock, my student had to drive her. She told me she used level 3 sending messages, swinging a rope toward the mare's upper hip to express what she wanted. Once the mare was in an alley between paddocks, her exit was blocked at one end. My student opened a gate to one of the paddocks, then positioned herself at the open end of the alley, holding a 0, how curious, inner attitude to draw the mare toward her and the open paddock. She used a level 4 gesture, slapping the lead rope on the ground to turn the mare back away from her when it seemed she might try to blow past her. But she needed the mare to see the open gate that was nearby. So every time the mare turned back to her, my student had a relaxed body stance and held the O posture. If the mare kept coming straight at her with too much speed, she used the level 4 extreme X to turn her again. Alternately beckoning and sending eventually caused the mare to see the open gate and choose that option on her own. Horse Speak got the mare to start thinking and stop just reacting. Maybe the next person should take over these steps.
Sure, absolutely. Good idea. Heidi?
Okay. Conversation, managing your core energy. 1. With the horse at liberty in his paddock or stall and you outside the enclosure, assume an X posture of low intensity and imagine the light beaming from your belly button to a specific point on the horse's body. Count to 10. Your horse may respond immediately or not at all. There is no wrong answer. You are just gathering data. 2. Now turn your body as if beaming an imaginary spotlight toward the direction your horse is looking. Look there as well, but keep your horse in your peripheral vision. Count to 10. 3. Turn your core energy back toward the first point of focus on the horse. Observe if your horse shows any sort of reaction and change in breath or ear position. A shift in stance or head height. Stance or head height. 4. Try these 3 times and don't forget to do ah shucks, letting out a big breath in between tries. You can literally open the path the horse will move toward or close him off to movement by directing your belly button and core energy using the levels of intensity. When your horse is moving next to a wall or a fence, directing your eyes and core energy at the wall just in front of him can be like closing a gate. You can open the gate by swinging your core energy so it projects parallel to his own and his movement. Narrow his path by directing your core energy on a diagonal or a 45-degree angle across the area in front of his chest. As we've already learned, horses can learn to back up when you turn your core energy to their chest. It is important to not only be aware of how your belly button has a powerful influence, but to learn how to rate it using levels of intensity. Think about how we usually are with our horses. Most of us probably randomly direct our belly buttons and focus all over our horses' bodies all the times we are with them. Since this all amounts to different forms of pressure, most horses will be confused by our communication. They know we're asking something of them, but they have no idea what it is. Your horse constantly moves his head when he is around you. Guess what? When your belly button is aimed toward his head, it is a sending message. As soon as you turn your body to reach back and groom the withers, for example, You remove the pressure and he will want to bring his head around towards you. I've developed a conversation to help you learn how your core energy influences your horse. Conversation. Are you ready?
Pardon me. I'm going to have you just stop there. We'll read that the next time.
Okay.
So, yeah, because this is a big, long conversation. So I think that we'll just pause and just discuss what we just read. So thank you, all you ladies, for helping us read and get through these 10 pages of great information about intensity levels. And as I'm listening to these, to the words that are on these pages, there was a couple moments that I did highlight. And yes, the pictures on page 101 are really great examples of how we can go through the energy feel as well as the gesture and the posturing of working through 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the keynote of this whole thing of intensity levels is as we go up intensity, it's crucial that the aggression doesn't come through. And that is really the yoga ball practice. The yoga ball practice is so important to be objective if you decide to do this, because the first time you do it, throw it away. That you're gonna be angry. I mean, you can't not. I have not met a person, including myself, on that first hit on the yoga ball that it's magic. The only person actually I'm pointing because Sharon is over there is Sharon. She can do it. She can do this because this is what she's practiced in her lifetime. But for every other student, it is letting go of that anger because it's just energy. That is the keynote of what we're trying to teach in level 4 intensity level. And it is through 1, 2, and 3 also. But because of the bigness of level 4, it's so important to, again, I'm just going to say it again, is not to be aggressive. It is about asserting oneself. But then there was a moment where it's like seeing the energy ground out. I thought I underlined it, but seeing the energy grounding through your body into the earth, because then the energy can go somewhere and it's just going down versus going out into the world and into the horse. So the other thing, and Violet, I see your hand, and Sherry, I see your hand also. In the paragraph on page 103 with level 2, it's really important that we're not flapping our hands or doing any big motion. It's like waving our hand. It's like waving our hand. It's a slow, consistent movement, especially at a level 2. So it's like, follow me, circle, circle, circle that way, please. So it's just like, it's like wave hands move like clouds, like in Tai Chi. It's just like this motion, and it's from the core, and it's not flapping. Never flap, because flapping does show frantic. So we want to be having our assertive energy, and if the only time really we need to be getting into level 4 intensity and doing a jumping jack or something is in an emergency. Period. When the horse is triggered, running around, they're going to hit a fence, things of that nature. It's an emergency, not this is my go-to. I need to make my horse move because I want to do a lunge circle or something. Like, no, that's not what level 4 is for, of like stopping movement or getting movement to go. That's not what the goal is. And so with having some kind of a little, little bag, or, even that is, you have to be sensitive with any kind of object, because when we get an object in our hand, I'm looking for objects, that would be a good demo. We tend to just start waving them around or not being mindful, and even coiling a rope. Coiling a rope can be an O activity, or you can make it X. Like this is X. Just doing that gives a lot of tension. So how we slide our hand on the lead rope also gives meaning. And so then I coil up my rope and I move smoothly and slowly without jerking motion. So that's one of the big things that we want to make sure that we're practicing. And the other thing I underlined, by the previous steps, this is on page 104, by following the previous steps in this book, you have already gained the trust and respect of your horse that make this kind of communication an extreme rather than a norm. And so that's under the subheading of level 4. So again, it's like last resort emergency. If you have followed through and tried practicing the things that we've already read about, then there is no need to go to a level 4. So and then to just circle back to page 105 under the subheading of the difference between assertive and aggressive, then we're also talking about our inner emotions, because on page 106, emotional stability is being able to identify and manage your emotions all the time you are with your horse. And so it's not perfect, but it's having that awareness. Oh my gosh, this horse never is going to change. Negative feeling. I can't believe it. I feel betrayed. And how much we put so many different anthropomorphic feelings and thoughts onto horses, especially, why am I paying for this? He never understands me and he's out to get me. And all these, the pony police that's going off in our head, right? Because we judge ourselves and we think that we're bad and wrong. And that's part of what we're helping all of our students, is that you're practicing a new language with your horses. And it does start with us because we are the one who's going into their world. And by understanding their world, that they're in 2 and 3 intensity level and only extreme moments where they do go into a phase 4. They're like, you didn't listen to my 1, 2, and 3. I'm trying to keep us safe. You got to move. Things are happening. There's reason behind it. They're in what if one could imagine a healthy family system, and they have to work together for safety, period. Safety is so important. So I think that's all of my thoughts that I had highlighted from this reading for myself. And so this is a practice. It's not just read the words on the page and then your core energy is going to be solid and your X and O and your fine tuning is all just going to happen. We need to practice this stuff because it's just part of the journey of having better awareness with our body language. So let's see, Violet, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. I have a little success story, and it's
Oh,
very relevant to that paragraph you just cited, where your thoughts are affecting how you relate to the horse. Because
yep.
I had a big knee problem last summer, and I've been doing a lot of work with Rico, who's a little erratic as a personality. He's a joker, and so I kind of lost the thread of groundwork with him. I didn't feel like my balance was good enough to work with him. And then once my knee was better, it was icy and snowy, and I was still having a little trouble with him. And he started to get really aggressive towards me when I went out to the paddock. And it kind of freaked me out. So I was trying to work over the fence. I sent in a video, and
Yeah.
Jared said, I think this horse has ulcers, which is entirely possible, but
Right.
he was really freaking out. So after like reading and listening, I decided I needed to work on my zero
Mm.
and my thought process, because I felt like I was assuming that he didn't trust me anymore. Like he didn't like me, he didn't trust me. And that's what I was projecting at him. And I started just hanging out in the paddock, being really calm, um, and observing and interacting with a stick because he's very mouthy. He liked chewing on the stick and eating pine needles and things. And I just did that like a number of days, 3 or 4 times a week for a couple of weeks. And he was getting much more calm around me. And also, there was grass starting to come up, so that helped too, because
Yep.
they could graze. And then yesterday, I decided I was going to ride him for the first time in almost a year. And everything went fine. He got a little agitated, and each time he did that, I would hold the jump up button and the girth until he calmed down, which worked pretty well. And then I brought him out, and then I did a little lunging with the saddle on his back. And when I went to take the halter off and put the bridle on, he yanked his head away, which he does when people put him out in the paddock. I've worked with him on that, but I haven't been working in the morning. So I was totally surprised. He yanked himself away. The reins were around his neck. He got tangled in the reins. He got his hind foot in the reins. And he
Oh,
was panicking, jumping around. And luckily it was a very small paddock. So I just, I stayed calm. He stopped jumping around, let me walk over. I picked up his hoof, took the rein out from under it, which I mean, even the barn manager who was there was like, wow, I can't believe he let you do that. And I put the bridle on his head and he licked my hand, which he hasn't done for a long time. And I just thought, oh, he really does like me and trust me. And, we had a little negotiation over the mounting block, but I got on. And then we just had a lovely little ride. And he did a lot less. Usually he stops and stands and won't
yeah,
move. And he really didn't do that. He stopped, but I mean, I've been taking riding lessons, so that helps.
yeah.
But it was just lovely, and it just really changed my perception of my relationship with him, and I was very excited about it.
Good for you. That's great. Well done. Yes. So you notice like, oh, what I'm bringing to the table is causing a little disharmony. So you were able to be mindful of that. And then, you in an emergency, he's like, I know you have me. And then he was like, okay, you can put the bridle on, licks you, and you have a nice little ride. That's so great. Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, he's never had trouble with putting the bridle on. It was taking the halter off that made
Yeah.
him want to run, and
Yeah.
then I
Just
was
everything happened all at once.
yeah. But really working on my zero all of the time, that really helped so much.
Yeah.
Because I realized that I was letting my thoughts take me all sorts of places, and I just
Yeah.
had to assume that this horse doesn't hate me, even
Right.
though I'm
And
a
then
little.
he's like, okay, Violet, I see that you're practicing your zero. So what if there's an emergency? Who are you in the storm? So you were able to stay in it and stay with your zero. So then you could be with him in a panicking situation and you showed up.
And thank you so much for, your feedback on that video and
Oh,
just
yeah.
the horse speak help I've gotten over the last couple of years. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad, that it's been helpful for you because that's, we're seeing a video and, try this and that. And so I'm just glad that the things you're able to apply have been able to work out for you because, yeah, you're doing it. It's all you. We're just, we're saying, like I said, do X, Y, and Z and call us in the morning. So
Thanks.
you're welcome, darling. Thank you for your contribution, both with reading and your success story. So we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Take care. All right. And I'm going to read Alexis's comment here because I see there's been some feedback. I actually was in the section of this book last week and played the core energy game while walking my horses down a lane to a pasture, all fenced so they were loose. I simply lifted my belly button while walking for a step or two. I was behind my mule. She flipped her ear back to me. I did this 4 times. Once I was on her left instead of slightly right. That time I got the left ear. I was fully behind her in a zone she couldn't see. I was stunned. I know, I know, I've read it, I've seen it, but in her blind zone with no arm motion, just lifting my belly button like an inch up and in. That's awesome. So yeah, you could feel, the way you wrote, I can visually see that there is energy coming from our belly button. We had an umbilical cord, and if you've heard of people who have lost a limb, there's this phantom limb sensation where it feels like you still have your hand. Excuse me. And similarly, we have our umbilical cord, which was attached to our mothers. And so then there's a phantom umbilical that we can practice having inside of ourselves, that is not seeking out, trying to find mom again or another person to attach to, but we can then activate it consciously to have movement, to a driving movement or a beckoning movement. And this is part of managing your core energy. Like, this is a big thing, especially working with horses that are loose, because you can send a sending message or have them be magnetized to you, magnetic core. So it sounds like you were doing a slight drive with your belly button to the mule, which mules are amazing. I'm learning all about the muleys. So, it's so neat that you could notice the ear, and that was the communication. She's like, I'm with you. I hear you. So that's really, really cool. I love it. What did lifting your belly button feel look like? It felt, excuse me, like lifting up and holding engagement. I don't think anyone human could have seen anything. It almost felt like connecting, from my belly up through my whole torso to my eyes. Yeah, I can understand. I can just send our awareness to our body part without physical change. And this gave me a really great idea to play with this. Yeah. And that is this energetic field. We're made of energy. And when we're conscious about what we're doing with our energy, then yes, we can. That's great. That's liberty. That's what people are doing with liberty work, is the drive and the draw and the holding. So this is the practice. Yes, I love this. So Sherry, what do you have to say? You're going to be next.
Okay, let me see if I can remember because there's so much great stuff here and I had ideas a while ago. First of all, I wanted to say what came to me when you were talking about fluttering hands is I keep seeing people with flags, the practice with flags, which I've never been drawn to.
Yeah.
But I thought of that when you said that, and how I've seen horses react to that. And yeah,
Yeah.
so interestingly enough, and to me, something always goes back to the if there's somebody who's got mastery with that, like a Buck Brenneman or somebody, it's different, right?
Yes, exactly.
But then you get out there and take so much practice to use something like that. Um, so I love this X to O practice described on page 108. And I was trying to think if there was an area in our pastures where I could practice that. I don't think I've come up with it yet, but it's on my mind. So my horse Bradford, who you know, he gets really anticipatory going through a gate when I am bringing him into a spot where there's more grass right now. Okay, so this is the prime time to kind of work with these issues because the fields aren't filled with a lot of grass yet. So I'll take him out to areas where there aren't grass, spend some time with him out there.
On a lead rope or not?
On a lead rope. Well, yes, both. Both. I'll put a halter on him. And I've been giving him permission to walk through the gate without the lead rope. But what I do with him, because he's at the gate waiting for me,
Yeah.
because he sees me. So what I do is I use his backup button. I ask him to back up because he's like he's got his chin on the gate. So I'm asking him to back up and wait. And I have him wait a couple seconds. And I don't put the lead rope on. And then we walk through and he walks through it. He doesn't rush through the gate. He walks through. We stay very calm. So that's a lower, kind of I want to say a lower energy version of this practice where like all you have is open field, you don't have a gate, and I'm just intrigued by that. So I'm not sure where I can go to play with that. But
So, because like with the core energy, we can open the door and close the door with our core. Like especially working in a stall door,
yeah.
because that is,
Oh,
that is the practice. Because like if there you can stand like on one side of the stall door and have your core be blocking. And so it's like literally, um, Joe, you're not going to help me with the demo. So and it sounds like you're preparing yourself really well at the gate. And maybe you do put him on a lead rope to just like at the beginning to really practice the like, I'm claiming the space in front as you turn and do a backup. And then I'm now opening the door for you to go through the threshold with me. Because you are just really thinking about as you turn in, then the door is closing. And especially if you put your core onto the backup button, then that is like, and then back up. And now I'm opening the door for us to go because my belly button is pointing to where I'm going to be going. Even if my feet are not pointing in that direction, like I can still point my core into the direction and where I want to go.
okay. That's really cool because I've trained myself with where my belly button is, where my navel is when I'm with them. So I'm not always on them, beaming energy at them.
Yeah.
I usually stand next to them and so forth. Um,
Yeah.
but okay, so I can open the gate basically because I'm on a safe enough property that if he busts by me, I'll just go get him, bring him back, and I can practice it because I'm in a safe environment where if he busted through the gate, he'd be fine. He'd be in a safe space.
Well, and also use your hands because then it's like, and bridge of the nose,
Okay.
got you, because you're practicing claiming the space in front. So, hand at the bridge of the nose, follow me, and here we go, and have your core be at like chest backup button, because
Yeah.
the belly button to the chest is going to block forward movement also. So you're kind of like this, and here's my horse here, and I've got your forward, follow me, stay here, and stay in this zone. And
Yeah.
I open the door, follow me up here, forward,
Yeah.
point to when now you can go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and practicing in corners is
Great.
also really great.
Practicing what?
In a corner.
In a corner.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Um, there was one more thing I was gonna say about I don't remember what it was, the belly button, but that's okay. I think I got it. Yeah.
All right, perfect.
Thank you. And also thank you to Alexis for sharing that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and her,
Oh,
in the corner, she brought in the corner thought also. So, yeah, corners are a great place because that's what they go to do sports maneuvers and fire drills. When you put horses loose into an arena, they typically get themselves in a corner and they're like, okay, ladies and gentlemen, how are we going to move out of this corner? How are we going to move forward, backward, left, and right to problem solve the corner so no one trips over each other so we can move in harmony out of this corner. It's amazing when you start next time you move the horses into a new, I mean, these are huge fields that you're working with. I mean, I've seen them on the videos, but next time watch and see what they do when they go into a new place and see, do they go into corners? And again, it might be a little bit different because it's such a huge space. But if they end up going into like a smaller paddock, just
mhm.
see if they use.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
really
Yeah.
fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, darling. You have a great day.
Yep.
All right, Danuta, you're next. Let's see. Here we go.
There we go. Hi.
Oh, hi.
I was just going to say how much I was been watching past Horse Speak videos, and I was watching the one of you having fun with feet with Jag. That was in February 21. That's how far behind I am, but I started at the very beginning. So
Good for you. You're getting there. There's like over 600 hours of videos. So,
yeah, I'm just taking it slowly, bit by
yeah.
bit. It's such fun. But that was an absolutely amazing video. I loved it. Um, what I have to say is like a bit similar to what the other lady said, beginning with V, Violet
Yep.
said, and also what Suzanne's written. Um, when my trainer came, he's to help with Dandy. He's kind of like he's really good. He only does the minimum that he has to, and as minimum, little as possible, as much as necessary. He's in that very kind of like zero
Mhm.
mode. But he says that like the horse has to respect boundaries. And so like we were chatting later on, like we were sort of, like he had somebody else with him as well. And this lady sort of said, oh, she's got somebody at work who's like invades their personal space. And just as a joke, she sort of like invaded my personal space. So what I did was I just like put one arm around her shoulder and the other one on her shoulder and just like moved her away slightly. And my trainer's jaw just dropped. He said, yes, that's another way of doing it, just kindness.
Mm.
And that really clicked for me because I thought, yeah, now I look at Dandy and I don't look at him as a horse who's going to kill me, but I look at him as like, oh, he's asking me something. Well, how can I go helping him? And
Mm.
that's really changed things for me.
Oh,
And
perfect.
it's just really lovely. So I just thought, and also just I wanted to mention, it's like I think being a mum or a teacher really helps you to keep that inner zero because while you say, stop that to one of your kids, you'll say, yes, love, what do you want to tell me? And instantly.
Yeah.
And it's just like that. So like, having 5 kids, I've had good practice.
Well, good for you. Holy moly. Yeah, I mean, that is Dr. Becky Bailey, who is a neuroscientist. Either way, she's into looking at how the brain responds to situations and how we as parents or any kind of situation, we can have 5 responses, is what she's labeled. There's dismissive, there's ignore, there is punish and save. And number 5 is the positive one, which is coach. And so there is a psychodrama that she demonstrates all 5 of them. And it's really profound because you can see, how a parent could be, oh, you're not, nothing is wrong. The teacher would never do something like that. Or I'm going to call the teacher right now. I'm going to tell her what's what. And so it's really interesting because we can then put those kinds of responses on our horses too. And the goal is this is part of keeping our zero and not taking things personal. And especially dealing with kids, like they're kids. They need training, they need coaching, they need help. They're reacting and being this way for reasons. And one of the things is that in one of the podcasts, whatever I was listening to with the doctor, it was how interesting about 3-year-olds up to around the age of 3 is when you would expect a kid to have a temper tantrum. And then after 3, then you're like, okay, what's the underlying thing that is going on? Like, what is the cause of this temper tantrum? Like, how can I help the kid? Then it escalates through all different ages where the kids become, teenagers and there's all this reactivity. The teenager becomes a young adult, there's still reactivity, right? So it's just like, and if one person hasn't received good coaching and things are just being just hit with a hammer all the time and there's no guidance, then the kid's going to be like, I just have to hit everything with a hammer. And that's the same with the horses that we're trying to like undo from the horse industry is like we don't need to hit the horse with a whip to make it do something. There's stages of how we are building better resilience in another nervous system, especially when most horses that we, come upon it's a rescue rehabilitation situation. It's not necessarily starved horses or anything of that nature. It is like overtrained. There's not, they're too young, doing too many activities. The person is using excessive force when it's not necessary. So they do lose trust. They don't feel safe. They haven't built that rapport. That's what we're working with when we're learning the concepts of Horse Speak, is how to create a really good working nervous system. So it's awesome that you're able to, figure out your coaching mode with Dandy, because he was trying to tell you something, and that's where
Yeah.
I can't take this stuff personal. It's like, what are you trying to tell me? And we are hoping that the horse doesn't have to go to extreme physical measures by like biting you or what have you, right? Like, but it's just they're trying to say something. So that's really great because I know you have a little bit of history with him and that he hurt you on accident and things. So then it's like beautiful that your nervous system is rounding a big corner. So
But there's also the thing that, I'm not a very assertive person.
yeah,
And I found out that my strength actually is kindness
yeah.
rather than like, no, don't do this.
Mm.
It's more like, okay, well, you want to do this, but let's show you how can we do this? Why do you want to do it? How can we do it so it's easier for both of us? I don't know. I feel comfortable being kind, but I don't feel comfortable being assertive.
Mm.
It
Well,
just works for me.
I mean, and that's fine because there is crap. Sharon just said something recently because there is, even in having a boundary is where the connection is. And that's like with kids are looking for the boundary. Like Joe has absolutely no boundaries. Like my cat, he's this, and cats tend to not have, we don't make them have a boundary. And so,
No.
and horses who are nippy, they're like, where is the boundary? But not in a jerk way. They're just like, I don't know the rule. And so there's kindness in setting up a rule because that's what makes us safe. Because if we don't, and that's where we see kids, for example, acting out, is a lot of kids who become adults and have struggled with life is because they'll say, my parents never gave me boundaries. They never said no. I grew up way too young. I made my own rules. And yeah, I acted out and did whatever I wanted. And then when they can have the reflection about it didn't feel safe to not know where the boundary was because it
Yeah.
felt out of control, right? So then there's kindness in a boundary.
Yeah. But you can also set boundaries with kindness, not with force.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's with like, saying cheek button. No, seriously, cheek, keep it out of my space. It's not cheek, get out of my space. It's just
Yeah.
no, cheek. Really?
It's just how you phrase it, basically, isn't
Yeah,
it?
absolutely.
Yeah. How
That's
your intentions are.
yes. Intention is huge. It's like, and that's why we did evolve like the go away face button to the cheek button because people were misinterpreting that as like stab away face and go away, drive. It's just like, no, just put your face out of my space and keep the line in the sand. That's all it is. And it's just like, and that is the thing that has happened with aggression with horses. Is yes, they're huge and they're reactive because they're prey animal and they're just like that. They have to run for safety.
Mm.
And so therefore there's just been a bad habit of doing too much to an animal that is just like cheek, even in the air, pointy finger, cheek, please. And that's it. But it is behind the thoughts. Like why are you doing this to me? I pay all this money for you. Oh my gosh, my horse is never going to change. Like all these intentions in our head that then if I'm like, oh, why do you keep doing this to me? I'm going to do a stab away face, you know? Because,
Yeah, she did a stab with your finger just then before you said that.
yeah, right? That's
Yeah,
just like, that's the intention behind those words. It's like the intention in our mind create the outward action.
yeah,
That's, where when we can
yeah,
change what we're thinking, the pony police and all these things, then our actions with our hands are going to have kindness in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for your thought today. I appreciate it. You have a good day, and we'll catch up with you next week because we're not going to be doing video club today.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, that's a shame.
I know. Sorry. We're much
Right.
needed, just a little bit of an extra break this week before our excessive everything else just keeps going. So we're going to take a pause button today. So we'll talk to you soon.
Well, enjoy.
Thank you. All right, Ducka, real quick, because I'm trying to do hard stops and having some boundaries with time also.
Hey, sorry, I'll try and keep this quick.
No worries.
Um, we've had some elevated energy things with Gima, the little Icelandic, 2 weeks ago when my 10-year-old was riding her. My 10-year-old grandson, Aiden, was on her, and he was just on the lead rope. So she went up to about a 2 and it seemed fine. And then I missed whatever was really bothering her and she blasted up to a 10. She bolted. He cried. He got scared. We got off. We managed it. And he was okay with her. He got back on. This week, he was on her and I saw her turn her head. So I used that as an opportunity. And I said, Aiden, I think we need to pay attention to Gima because she's looking at something over there. So why don't you get off and we'll go see what she's looking at. So we went over to the end of the arena, and sure enough, there was a deer out there that had her alerted. So the three of us going, and Gima got to kind of go first and move the deer away. And then the deer went down to another corner and she followed her over there. And we had her sandwiched in between us. Aiden was on one side, I was on the other. And we stood with her in the corner until she relaxed, went back down to the close to the barn end of the arena, walked around down there till she seemed to be relaxed enough. He got back on her, led him around like one full circle, and she stopped and did a dog shake.
Nice.
With him on her. So I explained to him that that was him releasing all of that energy and all that worry that she had. And he was so happy about learning all of that part about her. So, we turned like, well, first off, I didn't miss that she was looking at something the second time. I missed something the first time. So yeah. I paid more attention to her than the kid the second time. But we turned it into a really good experience for him. And we had already been talking about X and O posture. So
yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, because that's the thing. Like if they're not letting go of something, they're a deer in the woods, another horse in the woods. Like there's anything is possible. And so we're trying to stay safe. And that's the thing that we, especially for a youngster, it's like we don't push the horse through something. We need to be listening. And that's the theme of this year is about deep listening and the pause,
Yeah, and it's so easy for kids to be so distracted all over. So it was really cool. He really, really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. Good for you. I love that. Thank you for sharing that story today.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome, darling. So we're going to talk to you soon also, but it's so important that, the horse, it's one of those things where it's just like, make the horse do the thing. It's just like, they're just going to have pull one over on you and all this force. Like it's
exactly. They're doing this to you. Oh, the other thing she did that was so cool, I've already taught them to do an emergency dismount. So he wanted to do it walking because he felt like he should be able to do that after she bolted with him.
Yeah.
So he said, "Can I do that?" And I said, "Yeah, go ahead." So I had her walking. Every time he started to do it, she stopped. So we did it like 3 times. And then he realized, oh, she knew what I was going to do and she wouldn't keep walking when he was getting off. So I think that gave him a lot more trust in their bond again.
Yeah. Yeah. Horses are like, I'll stop. You're shifting your weight. Like what? And there's even like Dakota, she'll like kind of shrug you back on,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, no, I've got you. Don't worry about it. So that's really great that you're able to give him those experiences.
Yeah, because she's having a little more trouble evolving into a kid's horse than Margot did.
But it sounds like you're just trying to like, do small things, keep it safe, and have the kid reflect on what's going on.
Yeah, and I am so lucky to have a kid who's so into it.
That's awesome. Good for you. That's a fun project. It's nice to see the horses with the kids.
It's really fun. Thank you.
You're welcome, darling. You enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you all. It was a pleasure sharing space with you today. We want to give you the gift that the horses gave to Sharon, which is the exact and specific nuances of how our body language is communicating clearly with horses and how we need to just take the time to learn how and have those deep pauses and the deep listening so that we can see the whole perspective of what the horse's instincts are telling them. And that's the real lesson. The horses are actually looking at safety and they're keeping us safe. So if you'd like to learn more, in-person opportunities and online learning, check out our website at horsespeakacademy.com. May you enjoy the learning of horse speak, have fun, and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, be well, and we'll see you soon.